And I think now at that point, we're going to move to our next panel, which is comic books, pop culture, and more. And it's all the rest of the panels are going to be relatively 5-6 minutes. And we're going to ask Mariano Nicieza and Tom DeFalco to join us. And let me give you a little bit of bio on each one of them. Mariano has worked in writing, illustration, design, and direction in digital comics and in print comics, magazines, trading cards, and dozens of commercial projects for companies like Marvel Entertainment, Disney, Malibu, Fleer, Paramount, and Panasonic. At Marvel Entertainment, Mariano held positions as special projects editor and senior art director. I know him very well, and Mariano's got 2 masters of fine art and illustration and an undergraduate degree in illustration. His work is absolutely stunning. Mariano is also the founder and CEO of Apex Comics Group and Liquid Avatar's creative director. So it is a pleasure to welcome Mariano. And at the same time, we've got Tom DeFalco. Now, Tom and I have never personally met. This is the first time we've exchanged emails, and I'm a big fan of Tom's as well. Hello, Tom. It's as a collector, this is a real a treat for me. Tom DeFalco was Marvel's 10th editor-in-chief. Tom was a driving force behind the innovation of the entire Marvel cinematic universe. So everything you see on screen today has some origination, likely in Tom's head. I want to say that. I'll come back to that. I'll let you answer that. And today, Tom and his partners are launching a new comic book and multimedia project called Mr. Right, which Liquid Avatar and Oasis will be helping create NFTs for. So, gentlemen, both welcome. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, David.
So, Tom, what did I get wrong? Tell me what I got wrong.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe, while some of the storylines are based on comics that came out during my tenure, I left being editor-in-chief 20 years before the Marvel Universe. The MCU.
I had to start somewhere, Tom. We're attributing it to you.
I got you, but I am one of these fans that I love the Marvel Universe movies. I think they're terrific. I can claim no credit for them, other than I buy a lot of tickets to see them. I used to joke about the fact that I worked on every version of the Spider-Man movie, except the ones that actually got made. So,
well, I mean, everything has led up to those movies, and I think Sony just announced with who was it with? Was it Netflix? Like $1 billion project with Spider-Man this past week. It was unbelievable. But it's we remember all these characters as a kid, and they. I mean, the MCU and let's, talk about, the other part, the DC universe. I mean, if anyone's seen, Zack Snyder's 4-hour production of Justice League, I got up at 5 o'clock one morning because I never have time to see it. And I was riveted, just honestly riveted. You say 4 hours, it's like Gone with the Wind. And they had it was 6 parts, but it was amazing. But, talking about, all the work that both of you have done at Marvel has been just amazing. And but I want to talk today how you think NFTs will change consumption patterns in comic books, the graphics arts industry, and animation programming. And maybe Tom, we'll start with you, because something else that I think our viewers don't know is that you were, I don't know, I want to give you full responsibility, but actively engaged and involved in the Transformers and G.I. Joe activation for animation. Is that correct?
That part is correct.
Good.
Although, I got to give credit to other guys. G.I. Joe is primarily Larry Hama, one of the great unsung heroes of our industry, and Transformers is essentially Bob Budiansky, another great writer and artist. NFTs will have an effect on storytelling, but right now, I don't know what that effect is going to be, but I'm anxious to find out. I remember, in the early 2000s when we started to do cyber comics. Mm-hmm. I jumped into that because I knew it was going to affect storytelling, and I wanted to see how it affected storytelling. And it took about a year or two before we understood the tools that were available and the ways a digital comic book could be, fundamentally different and yet similar to a printed comic book. I think it's going to take another year or two. Hopefully we're smarter now, and it'll only take us a year or two to find out how NFT comics, can be fundamentally different and yet the same as printed comic books. There's a whole mentality about collectors. Collectors want to have the original comic book.
Mhm.
Goofballs like me, I'm just happy to read the reprints. So, like I say, we're going to find we're standing on a precipice, and we're going to find exciting new things coming in the future. I mean, 20 years ago, I never would have believed that my phone
Right.
holds more, digital capacity and computer speeds than the computers that sent the first man to the moon.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
The first computer I had, which was a Mac, I wrote 3 novels on it, and this thing has 100 times more.
Right.
More power. Who knows what's going to be happening in the future? And it's always exciting to be standing here and looking and go, wow, we're going to get new toys and new opportunities. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
I mean, that's great. And I mean, it's amazing because, and I will say this and then ask Mariano a question, because people who have been in sort of the comic book graphic arts industry have had to make that transition all the way along from physical art to digital art. I mean, that's the way the industry has changed. And it's remarkable that the legends in the industry and the veterans in the industry have been so attuned to technology. It's not a giant leap of faith, but Mariano, I'm going to ask you a question because I know this is something that we've been debating for a while. But
something simple, David. Make it easy. Make it an easy question.
Yeah, Mariano predicted how many people would join, would sign up for this, but he was off because the number kept increasing. He said over 500. I think we hit 560 odd, almost 570
Fabulous.
People that registered.
I'm glad that my name could pull in so many people.
I know, and he won the jelly bean jar. So Mariano, what do you think the pros and cons of NFTs are to digital collectors?
I'm going to echo what Tom said, and everything is so new right now. I'm looking at this as a tool, and when we can look back at history and see how other tools were introduced into the art world, photography, modern computers, NFTs, I think, are a fabulous, fabulous tool for collectors, for collectability. There are going to be ways to infuse art into NFTs that we haven't even thought about right now. I mean, we're certainly talking and kicking around ideas and coming up with all sorts of brainstorms on what to do. But again, echoing what Tom said, as this rolls forward, I think the sky's the limit. I think really everyone's imagination is going to fly with ways to apply art to NFTs and to enhance collectability.
And that's great. And I'm going to ask Kara just to maybe, while the three of us talk a little bit more, but maybe just to cut back and forth to some of the work that both of you are doing, both on Phaser Universe and on Mr. Right. And these are some of the things that will be both physical products and NFTs. So collectors will be able to get both of these. And I'm going to open and ask both of you. And for collectors, we're used to physical products. I mean, what draws me to comic books by and large sometimes is the entire sensory, experience. I can touch them, I can feel them, I can smell them. It smells like the printed. I mean, I'm a old newsprint comic book. I'm a guy from the 60s, right? I like those kind of comic books, not necessarily the new glossy paper ones, but and then the visualization. but I know that you've both been involved in digital comics. And so do you think collectors are going to move to the NFT market? What do you think about collectors' ability to move to the NFT market? And Tom, maybe you want to make a comment on that.
Well, you know, I'm not sure what collectors want, and I think, you know, the collectors ultimately decide what they want.
Mhm.
I think that if we're producing exciting stories, then readers will, you know, will be drawn to them. And if enough readers are drawn to them, collectors will come back later on. Again, I'm not sure how the, you know, how the world is going to change with the NFTs. I just know that it will change, and like I say, I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, seeing what these changes are going to be. But in the
Well,
meantime, we're going to do some.
that's a very fair answer. It's a very fair answer. And Mariano, your thoughts?
From my angle, from my part, I see NFTs as a wonderful opportunity to create adjuncts to artwork that folks typically see produced. Like you were showing some of the Phaser Universe material previously, and Tom will attest to this. There's a tremendous amount of behind the scenes work that goes into the development and the production of these characters. You're playing around with logos, you're playing around with costume design, all of it. So I believe that NFTs, in the way that I'm looking at it, will be applying some of this heretofore unseen behind the scenes material that will enhance the collectability of the finished pieces that people are seeing. Just like May is adding backstories to the photography she took, I'm looking at it as a way to enhance the collectability of the piece by adding backstory material that normally no one would get a chance to see.
And that makes great sense, because when we go to Comic Cons and we go to, you know, different events, we want to hear the stories, right? And so I think, so we've got Mr. Right, you know, with Tom and Ron and Sal, which are again, if you read yesterday's release, they're legends in the industry. And then we've got Phaser with Mariano and his team, which again, another legend. And then we've also got something here that we've talked about, which is the Outer Spacemen. And really quickly, Mariano, you and I have been talking about the Outer Spacemen for some time now, but not only are we going to have, you know, digital and augmented reality opportunities, but there is this very, very unique trading card set that you're working on that's going to be coming out for the Outer Spacemen.
That's correct. Outer Spacemen is a vintage toy line that was created by a gentleman named Mel Bernkrant back in 1969, 1968. Gary Schaefer is working with us. He's the modern curator of the Outer Spacemen line. And yes, we're taking these vintage toys. Alan Paul is working with us, as you know. So there are all sorts of wonderful things that we're going to be doing with this rich history of this toy line. They've appeared as toys, bendy toys. They've appeared as color forms and puzzles in the 80s. In modern times, they're now Glyos figure action figures. So they've been around for a long time. There's a lot of rich history there, and it's a lot of fun characters to work with.
Oh, that's good. And we're just doing some 3D imaging on them as well, some scan 3D imaging with some really cool effects to happen with that. So I'm going to wrap this up, because I know, like in every event, every panel, we're going to go over time. But I know that both of you have offered to give our viewers today a prize. Now, this prize will be forthcoming. It is not available today, so it'll be more of a promise for a prize to be delivered. But my understanding is that each of you, for your respective properties, Tom, you and the Mr. Right crew, and I know that I point to people in different directions because everything is backwards on screen. So if I want to go left, I go right. So we're talking that a winner will get an autographed copy of the publication for the first comic of Mr. Right. If I'm not mistaken, that'll be certified and hopefully.
Yeah, Tom, I forgot to tell you, we're giving away some.
We're giving that away,
I'm
Tom.
sorry.
I asked Mariano to make sure you were doing that, and Mariano, I'm sure you told yourself that we're doing the same thing with Phaser. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll make a note to myself. Yes.
Note to self, right?
Exactly. And we'll, you know what? We'll add remarks too. Let's put Ron Friends to work. Let's have him do a remark.
A remark. And for those that don't know what
a
remark,
why not? Why not?
Exactly.
I'm always happy to add add to Ron's workload.
Exactly.
For free.
For anyone who doesn't know what a remark is, it's not only a signature, it's a sketch that goes with it. And
He's gonna kill me, isn't he?
I'm very lucky.
Oh, yeah.
I'm holding I have a Spider-Man. I think it's a 700, the homage to Amazing Fantasy 15, that's signed by Stan Lee with a Spider-Man face by Stan Lee, a remark by Stan. So it's one of my favorite books. But I want to thank you both again, and we want to encourage everyone to go to oasisdigitalstudios.com and sign up for the Phaser Universe, the Outer Spaceman, and the Mr. Right NFTs that will be coming, and you'll get full notification. But I want to thank you both for joining us today.
Thank
It was
you
a
very much,
pleasure.
David.
Thank you. It was a real
Thank you,
pleasure.
Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.